Well, welcome everyone. This is the grand finale within the grand finale. And just to make that clear, the Java Jams, which is a year-long initiative starting in 2024, I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, is concluding today. So this is the last of the Java Jam. So I hope you've got your coffee because we're going to jam on the topic of AI. It was just a tricky little, funny little way of kind of getting people interested in AI by saying Java Jams. And then I should have thought about the language of computer language, but in a way, it kind of all worked out just fine. So I'm going to ask the wonderful Devin Walton to screen share for us. And I want to say it's really nice to see some familiar faces on this webinar today. We may have, although I haven't looked at the list, we may have actually presenters who presented for the jams. If you did present for the jam, and or if you attended a jam, just say, hey, I'm here, so we can see you in the chat. We can see the chat. So excited, very excited to bring you this very last grand finale. I couldn't have done it without the wonderful Bobby Jo Grillo-Pinelli. That, I think, with 2 B's and 2 L's and 2 N's and 2 I's, she's just spectacular all around. Together, we put together this year-long initiative. I couldn't have asked for a better partner in it. Bobby Jo is the dean. She's an associate dean for assessment at Walden University, which is a for-profit institution compared to some of us on the call as nonprofits. I also have the great honor to again welcome Ann back, Ann Converse Wilcombe, who is an associate dean. It's great to have a dean on a call from Drexel. She's got multiple roles, but she's an associate dean in the graduate college and associate teaching professor in the College of Arts and Sciences. So she comes with a great background to add into this mix. I have the wonderful honor and pleasure of Joanna Boeing joining us today. She is the associate, as she should be, she is the assistant director in the Office of Assessment at my institution, and we have worked together for 10 plus years. She's going to be bringing in some cautionary tale today, but she is our survey expert. When you listen to her talk, she's also been experimenting with AI on the survey aspects of things. You can always hit her up on the side if you want to talk about that. I have the privilege and the honor of presenting with Peter Shea, who is currently the learning designer and director of professional development, moving up a level and a notch at his institution to oversee AI in its complete at Middlesex Community College. Peter has been in and around on the topic of AI for a long time. So he's been waiting for this moment to come along as Devin Shea, well, that's an interesting combination. Devin Walton, who's at Northern Essex Community College, and Devin is an assistant professor in computer information sciences. Devin is our faculty in the room. He is the person that we want to stay on for towards that 2-hour mark. Why? Because Devin is going to do a demo extravaganza for us, which I think that's the part you need to hang on for. And we're going to bring you the story as we go along. So I'm just going to advance us to the next slide. We have one large slide deck for you today. So the Java Jams, it's a year-long community. We're not supported by anyone, not Assess, not ALE, not AAC&U, no one. We are a group that Bobby Jo and I co-chair. We go by voluntary spirit to free to the community. No presenter who presented for us was paid. So this was a whole year-long, I would say, gallop through the topic of AI and the intersection of higher education assessment. Those who are joining us who are not higher education assessment professionals, it doesn't matter. It's the topic of assessment that we're talking about, but the crux of the matter is student learning. Next slide, please. The Java Jams, the project, the purpose was to bring the community together. That's essentially it. To connect theoretical learnings, yeah, if we could bring it in to support assessment professionals in leading AI adoption, that's where we wanted to get to. We wanted to get to that centerpiece and to foster a community. I think we achieved that in this past year. Next slide, please. We started with a whole slate of volunteers, but we're doing kind of a bookend session because we invited Ann, Peter, and Devin in January of 2024, and they started with a topic called Preparing for the Battle. And here we are ending with Ann, Peter, and Devin with the introduction of us and Joanna joining in. You can see we have other wonderful presenters, some from community colleges, some from ed tech, a learning designer, a provost, and a faculty in business. So we have a mix of faculty and staff and assessment professionals speaking about AI. So thank you, presenters, for this year-long journey. Next slide, please. This community-driven engagement, should you choose to do it for your own state or your own group, here's how it works, just so you know, for this grassroots effort. It was completely unhosted, so whoever was presenting hosted. We sent out information on listservs, on LinkedIn. We recorded sessions. We sent you the notes for the sessions. We had a community you could join. We put announcements on LinkedIn, and I said the Assess listserv, and we have a dedicated LinkedIn group, which I will drop in the chat for you, which will continue on as we end this and wrap up the Java Jams. So that LinkedIn group, I just put it in the chat for you. You are welcome to join us. We pop things in there. As I'm very active on LinkedIn, I watch for conversations that come up that may intersect with assessment. And we are happy to have you join that group. Okay, a little bit more on the jams, and I'm going to give you a little bit of data for consideration as we kick this thing off, and I hand it over to Bobby Joe. So next slide, please, Devin. So just to give you an idea of the project timeline, and I put this slide in here because you need to know that in the initial phase, we were sprinting. If you dial back to January of last year and we all came back from our break, we were all in it. We were in it in sort of a frenzy. And the Java Jams was trying to meet the needs of the frenzy. Like, like, let's get these Ignite talks in, let's go into breakout rooms. And that was good for last spring. But then over the summer, we kind of saw that people were getting their hands in and people were kind of getting into use cases. So we shifted our fall to invitations of folks who are doing use case work to come into us and talk to our community, in which we had robust discussions on how to use AI. And our most well-attended talk was with Glenn Phillips, who talked about how you can use AI for accreditation and accreditation reports. A bit controversial. He did a use case scenario, and I think people learned quite a bit about integration AI and standards and writing. So this is the last of the jams in which we have the use case, but we actually are looking also at cautions, policy, instructional design intersection, and of course, Devin giving us an actual use case, couple use cases for consideration. Next slide, please. I want to share with you a little bit of thematic insights that came through from the Java Jams, and I'm just going to move through these quickly. The first one, if you just advance one by one for me, Devin, is you have to get out there and lead. If you're an assessment professional in AI, you got to get out there and lead. If you have no idea what you're talking about in AI, that relates to the next tile that I have that we know for sure. You gotta experiment with the tools. Once you have a sense of how the tools work, you can then go back and think about how you can lead at your institution. If you don't have a seat at the table at your institution, what we've learned from assessment professionals this past year is you build your own policy and practice for your assessment office. Next tile. If you don't mind, Devin.
Oh, it's up, Ruth.
One more.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, that's fine. So the human always stays in the loop. At least for now, we know that for sure. With most of the processes we do and we oversee, we're still watching and participating in the process as a partner with AI. So for insight and oversight, for validity, and just ethically. And the last tile, this one is very important, is you need to collaborate. And if you don't have opportunities to collaborate across your campus, look here. For those of us who don't have obvious collaboration opportunities, reach across institutions. I'm on a call today with colleagues from 4 different institutions. And if we add in Yarrick is now a partner, as well as the wonderful moderators, Elise and Enrique, partners. So you got to reach across if you don't have a partner at your own institution. Next slide. So I want to leave you with 2 more slides. This slide was presented at the Assessment Institute. If you were there and you were at our keynote session, you already saw this slide, but it's important to bring it back. Mark Nicholas and I, in the summer, last summer, 2024, this past summer, we sent out a survey to assessment professionals, and in that survey, we asked about AI. And let me show you some of this data. So first tile, Devin. So we asked 264 respondents. So this is what we had when we got our results back. So of the 264 people who took our survey, we asked, what role will AI play in the assessment work? And if you do quick math, you'll notice that half say it will have a major or a moderate role in the work of assessment. I'm like, okay, that sounds about right. Next slide. This puzzled me. Are you using AI in assessment? 70% about said no. Okay, I accept that. That is going to have an impact, but not using it. Next tile, please. So this is what's troubling to us and what we need to pay attention to today. So if you think it's going to have a moderate or major role and you're not using it, how is it that 55% of our assessment professionals feel prepared? So I don't know if it's an intellectual preparation or it's just pure denial, but if it's coming for us and you're not using it, how are you feeling prepared? So I'm going to 2 comments that came through in the open response. If you return twice, Devin, we'll get the 2 responses from people that may somehow indicate why we're not really absorbing it all that much in our assessment work. One person said that they have, since the pandemic, it's technology overload. The pandemic itself, plus the technology, is creating overload in daily life. Don't have time. That's the message I get there. And the second one is, I'm not concerned at all, one person says, about AI. I just want others to fine-tune it. And in 6 months to a year, there will be significant improvements. And this tells me I'm just going to wait and see. Not going to get my hands in. I'm just going to wait and see. So I bring this data to you to maybe provoke you to not be, don't have time, wait and see. It's time to get your hands in. So I'm going to give you a prediction for my future. And all of us give our predictions for the future with my crystal ball. Devin's going to show you my crystal ball. I think in the future, just keep advance it all the way. We will be shape-shifting. We will be shape-shifting from that traditional assessment director to something else. We will be moving more to what I call the experience architect. That means we're going to be moving towards a future where AI is going to help us predict student success. And we're going to be moving to more personalized learning relationships, not only with our deans and our chairs, but also with students. So we're going to be moving more to designers, from sitting on the side and doing end of report summaries, to inside of and perhaps warping more towards a Peter, which is an instructional designer.